Good afternoon. We're doing 10 minutes a day again with reading from the Anarchist Handbook, organized by Michael Malice. And we are in chapter 17. We've read the introduction to Charles Robert Plunkett from Dynamite, 1914. And we'll just go ahead and start reading on page 229. It had to come. It was the logical culmination of events. The past 5 months have witnessed a period of anarchist activity in New York City unequaled in this country since the stirring days of 1880 in Chicago. Also, and consequently, they have witnessed unexampled police brutality, court persecution, newspaper slander, and popular prejudice. The end was inevitable. It began in the stormy days of February with the revolt of the unemployed, well-fed, pharisaical clergymen and their smug, self-righteous congregations rudely awakened from their fatuous dreams of 17th century theology by hordes of hungry men demanding food and shelter. Mass meetings and demonstrations, the greatest ever held in New York, at which thousands of workers listened to and applauded the speeches of avowed anarchists, the black flag of hunger, borne by ragged, starving men through the residential street of the world's industrial potentates. The city stirred, the country aroused, the pillars of capitalist society shaken. Hunger had become articulate, misery had found a voice. The authorities, deaf to the groans of starvation, quickly gave ear to the first murmurs of revolt. 192 men arrested at once for seeking food. Frank Tannenbaum sentenced to practically 2.5 years in jail for declaring that a hungry man has the right to eat. Meetings forcibly broken up by the police. Working men clubbed, arrested, and jailed for expressing their opinions. And they ask if we believe in violence. Then came the massacre of Ludlow. 200 men, women, and children of the working class shot down or burned alive by the hired butchers of Standard Oil. Again, it was the anarchists who took up the fight of the workers and brought home the responsibility where it belonged, to the oily murderers who teach a Bible class on Sunday and roasts alive defenseless women on Monday. Quote, "My conscience acquits me," said young Rockefeller. We replaced his conscience. We became his nemesis. His well-oiled conscience acquitted him, but we, the militant workers, have convinced him and passed judgment from his own Bible. A life for a life. Driven from his office at 26 Broadway, from his city home and his pet Sunday school, the world's most potent monarch was forced to take refuge behind barred gates and armed guards at his Tarrytown estate. Having driven the rat into his hole, we followed him there. We went to Tarrytown. More clubs, more arrests, more jail, more persecution. 12 men and women thrown into a filthy, stinking jail for speaking on the street. More arrested and clubbed the next day. Jail sentences of 30 to 90 days punished the temerity of the rebels who dared invade Rockefeller's hometown. Finally, finding his town police, his private guards, and special deputies unable to cope with the situation, a hired, quote, mob was organized, which, inflamed with patriotism, rural bigotry, and Rockefeller's whiskey, and gratuitously aided by the New York City authorities, attacked, stoned, and had not their Dutch courage failed them, would have lynched the anarchist speakers. After this, the mask was off. Not content with legal violence, the ruling class itself had first appealed to extra-legal violence. None could suppose that the anarchists would not accept the challenge. This was the situation on the morning of July 4th. Then came the explosion, startling the country and striking terror into the hearts of the reaction. A large tenement house on Lexington Avenue was destroyed, and 3 well-known anarchists, Arthur Caron, Charles Berg, and Carl Hansen, were killed. The ruin was evidently caused by a large quantity of dynamite exploding in the flat occupied by our comrades. These are the facts. More than this no one knows, and probably never will know. Whatever may be the truth of the matter, the police and the capitalist press immediately assumed that the dynamite was being made into a bomb for use against Rockefeller or in Tarrytown. This was the story flashed over the country, and the moral effect of the explosion was as great as if our comrades had succeeded in their purpose, whatever it might have been. As usual, many of the lip revolutionists scurried to cover and hastened to repudiate violence, anarchy, the dead man, and everything connected with them. The anarchists, however, have stood their ground. Although we know nothing of the facts, we do not hesitate to admit the possibility, nor fear to face the accusation, that our comrades met their death in an attempt to retaliate upon the violence of the ruling classes in the only possible way, with violence. If they did, we own them proudly, and we honor them for their intelligence, their initiative, and their courage. They did the only logical thing, the only courageous thing, the only revolutionary thing under the circumstances. When free speech is suppressed, when men are jailed for asking food, clubbed for assembling to discuss their grievances, and stoned for expressing their opinions, there is but one recourse: violence. The ruling class has guns, bullets, bayonets, police, jails, militia, army, and navies. To oppose all this, the worker has only dynamite. All honor to the men who acted while others talked. All honor to the men who were preparing to strike a blow of terror into the hearts of the enemy. They are dead, the last in the long list of martyrs to the cause of human liberty. But there are hundreds and thousands still alive who, inspired by their act, will follow their example with better success. Off with the mask. This is war. Violence can only be met with violence. Quote, if they attack us with cannon, we will attack them with dynamite. And whenever possible, let us attack first. To oppression, to exploitation, to persecution, to police, jails, militia, armies, and navies, there is but one answer: dynamite. And we'll go ahead and just wrap up right there, a little bit shorter tonight, at the end of page 232. And tomorrow we'll go into chapter 18, Morris and Linda Tannenhill, from the Market for Liberty in 1970. See you then.